Chapter 41. Rusty Hudson suspected me of cheating him somehow but couldn't prove it. Dominic DeGreasy's note spoke for itself. Hudson had to let Roger go. Just like Clever Cleaver had to cancel his arrest warrant for Jessica, Hudson did get some pleasure out of clapping Little Rock into the tank for theft and art forgery. He put out an all points for Carol Masters too, same charges, but she gave him the slip. Too bad, ruined his perfect record. As for me, I consider the case a great success. I had taken care of Roger and his ex-wife too, exactly what the rabbit had wanted. I picked Roger up at the city jail. His stay there hadn't helped him any. His joints dangled as loosely as a marionette's. He hadn't lost any more parts that I could see, but it had to be only a matter of time. I explained the case to him on the way home. I needed the note, I said in conclusion, because I knew nobody would believe you'd been shot by a genie. Good thinking, said Roger, without much enthusiasm. He went into my apartment. Two of his fingers stuck to the doorknob. His tail fell off on the threshold. So the genie shot me, and Dominic shot his brother. Not quite, I said. I rummaged under the sink for a bottle of hooch, but this had been a long, hard case, and I'd completely depleted my stock, just when I needed it most. The genie shot you all right, but Dominic didn't kill Rocco. Roger flopped around on the sofa to face me in a loosey-goosey motion that led me to believe he might be missing a few important bones. If Dominic didn't, who did? Let's examine the suspect list, I said. Jessica wanted Rocco dead, but she planned to let Carol Masters or Little Rock do the job for her, so that lets her out. Carol Masters came to the house that night but never went inside. Little Rock never even came. Sid Sleaze had no motive. That leaves only one other person with both reason and opportunity. Who? Asked Roger in a balloon so faint I could see right through it to the wall. That leaves you, old buddy. There's a sign up over the door to detective school. What walks like a duck and talks like a duck is probably a duck. I lit a smoke. It went down harsh and rasped at my throat. There's just too much evidence against you. You publicly threatened to kill Rocco. 3 eyewitnesses placed you at the murder scene, gun in hand. Nichols the pawnbroker fingers you as the one who bought the gun. It has your fingerprints on it, but the kicker is something Jessica brought up. Doppels usually disintegrate within a few hours of their creation. Yet you've lasted nearly 2 days. Because the real Roger put an extra amount of effort into making you a bang-on duplicate of himself, so anybody who saw you would have no doubt you were real. Then he sent you out in the middle of the night to buy a pair of red suspenders with a $50 bill, so the situation would be unusual enough for the shopkeeper who wrote up the sale to remember you. Roger created you as an alibi. That's who killed Rocco. You did. You hired me to give you somebody to hang the murder on. Tough detective gets carried away with his work, kills wealthy syndicate owner. All you had to do to cement it was to take the gun you stashed in your nightstand and plant it where it would incriminate me. I take the fall, and you get off scot-free. You never cared about your contract, and that phony pie assassination was just a ploy to keep me hooked until you did the deed. Roger's face came apart, but he used his paws to force it back together. He started to say something, but I turned my back on him so I couldn't see what. You're a smart cookie, Roger. You covered all the bases. Except for the forgery scheme in the magic lantern, you'd be home safe. But how were you to know that half the population of LA would be hanging around Rocco's the night you killed him? And how were you to know that you had a deadly killer sitting on the front burner of your stove? I turned around to face him, and nearly gagged on a dark cloud of malice with a stench to it worse than fried onions. I had it planned for days, said Roger. His balloons came out paper-thin and crumpled. They fluttered to the floor like the betting slips of a gambler with nothing left to lose. Just the way you spelled it out. The night of the murder, I waited in the phone booth. The real Roger called me just before he went to see Rocco. The next store I entered, I commented about the lateness of the hour so the storekeeper would remember the exact time. Then I went back to the phone booth. Roger called afterward and told me he'd done it. I gave him the name of the store so he had his alibi pat in case the police came by before I got back. The only thing left was to give him the red suspenders, pick up the gun, and plant it in your apartment. That's why I bought the lockpicks, so I could open your door. But when I got back to the bungalow the next morning, the real me was dead. The place was crawling with police, and I couldn't get in. So the gun stayed put. I didn't know where to turn, so I came to you. And I took you on as my partner. I thought we had 2 murders to solve, but you knew we only had 1. That's why you weren't particularly diligent in tracking down clues in the DeGreasy case, because you knew they'd all lead straight back to you. Roger swallowed hard enough to dislodge his Adam's apple. It fell to the floor and disintegrated. I don't regret it, he said in words strained to slivers through badly cracked lips. Rocco had it coming to him. He was nasty through and through, a regular viper. He deserved to die. And I deserved to take the rap? You tire me. The rabbit crinkled his forehead and lost one of his eyebrows in the process. Oh, how you tire me. If you knew, why didn't you turn me over to Hudson? My turn to crinkle my brow. What would I get out of it? A few brownie points? They wouldn't last a week. Don't be too sure I'm the louse I'm supposed to be. So while I played dumb for you, you played the sap for me. The rabbit uncorked a smile, but I'd seen better on a dead dog. You're a decent human being, Eddie. What is it you private eyes call it? A stand-up guy. He reached out his paw to shake, but it dissolved on the way. He reached out his other one, but it went likewise. He winked an eye instead, and the rest of him crumpled to dust. I opened my apartment window and let the draft have Roger's remains. I looked up at the sky. It was one of those rare days when the earth revolves a little faster and shoos away the smog. You could see a long way, but not half as far as Roger had gone. The end. You have been listening to the story of Who Censored Roger Rabbit by Gary K. Wolfe, narrated by Son of Herodotus. If you like this story, please be sure to check out the Academy Award-winning film Who Framed Roger Rabbit, directed by Robert Zemeckis and produced by Steven Spielberg, starring the late Bob Hoskins as Eddie Valiant, also starring Christopher Lloyd and Joanna Cassidy, featuring Kathleen Turner as the voice of Jessica Rabbit, and Charles Fleischer, who, among other characters, voiced Roger Rabbit himself. Also, if you like to read more mysteries concerning Roger Rabbit, please be on the lookout for Who Plugged Roger Rabbit and Who Whacked Roger Rabbit, both written by Gary K. Wolfe. Happy reading, everybody!